up, though, Detroit? We are back for the second season of Detroit Culture Shifters, and I'm super excited for this one. You probably have heard her name before because she was nominated very recently, so hopefully you watched the last episode. But we're talking to a woman who has cultivated her life to actually give back to people in so many ways. Not only has she given back in her day-to-day job, but she's also written a children's book. She's given back to her home country, and her family has some insane roots to the city of Detroit. We're talking to Dr. Lyndsay Archer. Hi, girl.
Hey.
No, first of all, I'm just super impressed by you,
Thank
just in general, because I've followed you for a while, and I just think that what you do is amazing. So first, for people who don't know who you are, who is Lyndsay without the accolades, without the title, without anything that you've done? Who are you?
Ooh, I love that question. The first thing that I would say to describe myself, I'm an old soul. To my core, I think it bleeds into everything I do. I'm just I think deeply rooted is the word. And it bleeds into my passion for music. It bleeds into kind of my passion for preserving like history and stories. I think I'm one of those kinds of people where I truly like cherish the very, very simple things, the things that sometimes we overlook.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of a reflection of who I am as a person, and kind of what I end up being passionate about, and all the other things. It bleeds into the accolades and all those other things.
First of all, your voice is amazing.
Thank you.
And also, it just gives poise. Like, that's what I've always seen just through like social media, is that you have such a grace and poise about you.
Thank you.
So based off of what I've witnessed throughout your social media, your family has insane roots here.
Yes.
What were you listening to? What was the vibe in your household so that people can really like dive into what your family has done for the community?
Yeah, so my parents are both from Jamaica, born and raised. They both came here, did not know each other back home, but they came here kind of within years of each other.
Wow.
While they were in high school. So my mom came here in 79, my dad came here in 81. And so they both went to high school in Detroit. So while they were raised in Jamaica, they also, an important part of their upbringing was here too in Detroit. And I think they didn't know each other then. They didn't know each other until much, much later. But I think their respective upbringings in the city kind of shaped how they not only understood their upbringing in Jamaica, but understood how they would raise their kids later on.
Right.
And I think a lot of that had to kind of shaped how much they put into my sister and I when it came to giving back and making sure that we care about the community. For my dad, his path took him to medicine. And so he ended up going to medical school, was the first in his family to go to high school, finish high school, college, medical school. And then for my mom, the first in her family to go to college. And it's amazing, and I think about it. As I get older, I reflect more on what they've done with their lives, because I know where they came from, and they were great in making sure that I grew up seeing where they came from, so that we would go to Jamaica every year. And so I saw, the home that my mom was raised in, and how little her community continues to have, but imagining what she didn't have growing up, and how much she really did lay that groundwork for making sure we understood, what our role is in being able to pour back into every community we're in.
I love that. I love that. As you said, as you get older, I feel like we start reflecting on what our parents have done and how that's instilled in us. So with having these two, I would say two different cultures, because I feel like Detroit's one way and Jamaica's another way.
So true.
So how do you feel like those cultures have shaped you and your identity and how you move through the world?
Yeah, I always love to tell people I am the intersection of what up though and wagwan.
Yes.
Because it's just, Jamaica and Detroit are so different, but they're actually so similar in a lot of ways. They are, I think, the most prideful people come from Detroit and from Jamaica. You will know a Detroiter no matter where you are in the world. They will let you know. And then a Jamaican, you will know a Jamaican without ever hearing their accent. You will know just by, usually when people meet me, within the first 5-10 minutes, they're gonna know I'm Jamaican. So it's like, if you don't see it coming, if you don't see the colors, you're gonna know in some way. And so I think Detroit and Jamaica have a lot in common in that way. And I think just growing up with that pride, even, growing up, I went through a lot in terms of like bullying in school and things like that. But one thing I always could rely on was how much pride I had in my culture, being both from Detroit and being of Jamaican background. It was something I always just felt so much strength from. And I think both communities, as I've been able to kind of, being here, but also going back to Jamaica, I've been able to see, especially when I focus on like kids, being able to see how similar a lot of our kids are across borders. In my mom's community of Glengoff in Jamaica versus here in Detroit, there's a lot of things that kids in both communities are struggling with and dealing with that you wouldn't expect, because you would think that the cultures and the things they face are so different. And of course there's differences, but there's so much that they have in common as well.
Oh, wow. I mean, as someone who does travel a lot, I think that that's one of my favorite parts about really being there. Like, I typically don't like being the tourist. Like, I like going to where the locals are so that I can see the similarities. And I think that allows you to be more empathetic to what's going on in the world, because like you said, you realize that we have similarities. We may come from different places and have different stories, but a lot of the things that we do are very similar. So you mentioned that your father was the first in his family to go to college and to become a doctor. Yeah. Was that what inspired you and your journey, or were you pulled by the same thing but with different reasons?
Yeah, I think so for my dad, he had his own reason for going into medicine, and I think I honestly think that if I had not had him as that physical representation in the home of what a doctor can look like, I don't know that I would have immediately thought it to be an option.
Right.
It was, I was privileged enough to have that in my house, where I could see that, and where, it wasn't impossible to me that that I could become a doctor too. So I think it opened the door in that sense. But as any kid does, you grow up wanting to be like 10,000 things at once, and like you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be everything. I'm gonna be a doctor, and I'm gonna be an Olympic sprinter, and I'm gonna be an archaeologist. Like, those are the things I actually wanted to be growing up. And the one that stuck was becoming a doctor. And I think the thing that drew me, like continued to stay with me on that journey, was wanting to help people, which I think every doctor will tell you, but it's more than that. It's the ways in which you're able to help people. So my dad has always said that medicine is his ministry, and I didn't get that until I got to medical school, and more so now as a resident, where I do feel like if I really couldn't, it's hard, it's a tough journey, but I truly couldn't see myself doing anything else or feeling as fulfilled in the way that I do as a doctor, because I get to work with families, I get to work with kids, and not only am I addressing all their social needs and their medical needs, of course, but I really I feel like the health of a community depends on the health of the kids and their families. So for me, it became something where I realized, particularly as I was finishing college, that I really wanted to work with kids. And I think that drew me even more to knowing that, no, medicine is the right path for me.
I love that. I love that you spoke about your father saying that it's your ministry, because I think that one of the things my mom really instilled in me was making sure that even though, there's going to be some days where you're not going to want to go to work, you still have that love and passion and drive for it. Yeah. And I feel like in certain ways, this is my ministry, being able to talk to people and build community and platform people like yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think that in a similar manner, it's the same way that you're talking about your medical journey and becoming a doctor and seeing these kids just like light up when you speak to them, and also representation as a whole. I can only imagine how these kids are like, oh my gosh, like my doctor looks just like me. So you probably have already spoke about this, but what has been the most like fulfilling part of it? Is it having these kids and like seeing the success that you've made, or what is it for yourself? Like, what holds you to this journey so that in those, hard moments, you're still like, no, this is what I need to be doing?
Absolutely. That's a good question, because residency, you see everything and you rotate through everything.
Right.
So even though for me, I know I want to, one day, I just want to work in the clinic. I want to be that community doctor for families, for kids and their families. But as a resident, you're rotating through everything. So you're rotating through the ICU, you're rotating through the emergency room. And there are those moments where sometimes you feel disheartened because not every space is going to feel like your space that you belong in. But when I'm in the clinic, I know I'm the happiest, and also I know that I feel the most fulfilled. And part of that is just being able to talk to the kids, of course, but their families. Like being able to talk to parents who have questions, concerns, being able to identify too when a parent is afraid versus defensive. You know, I think a lot of times defensive about certain topics coming up when it comes to pediatrics, sometimes can be written off as, you know, they're just defensive, they're anti this, they're anti that, and sometimes it's just fear, and they just need someone to have a conversation with. And I think that's where I found my little pocket of joy, because being a Black woman, but also being in medicine, I know what that means, and I know what that represents for the community. And so when I get the chance to talk to families and kind of dispel some of, you know, their fears and kind of answer their questions, comfort them, that means everything to me, because now they're leaving my care, they're leaving that exam room more informed, and can make better decisions that at the end of the day, parents and pediatricians, we're on the same page. We want kids to be safe. We want them, they're our priority. And sometimes it's just a matter of, as doctors, making sure that we're making the information make sense for our communities, because it's all of our health. We each deserve agency over that. So I think that's what kind of grounds me, and when I have those moments, that even despite all the difficult things, it's knowing the impact, as small as it is, of being able to just make sure that families feel empowered in that way.
And I love that you pointed that out, because I think one of the biggest reasons why when I moved here, I was very adamant on having people of color and having women doctors for everything, was because I've had moments where going into a clinic or going into an ER, I don't feel that sense of, I don't want to say camaraderie, but that sense of safety or the education that's needed, because, you know, going into a doctor is already scary. You don't know what's about to happen or what you're about to go through. And having someone like yourself being able to break it down. Because I didn't go to medical school, so I don't know what's happening, but I want to be informed about what's happening to me. And I can only imagine if it's my heart walking outside of my body, I would want to also be educated in that way. So I love that you're very intentional on making sure that people, not only the kids, but their parents are also educated and informed. And you probably are going to use that as this answer, but I'm curious, what is something that you've learned throughout this journey that doesn't necessarily have to do with the medicinal side of everything? Like, what has been something that's really been like, oh, I didn't realize that this was a part of it, or something that you've learned about yourself throughout this journey? Like, what's something that's really like dawned on you through this process?
That is another good question. You're just here with all the great questions.
Thank you.
As you should. I think one of the bigger things that I knew going into pediatrics, that the social aspect of things that affect kids. So like a lot of kids have challenges at home, or might have different traumas at home, or even in the school system, all these different things. I knew that was something that I would face going into pediatrics, but I didn't realize just how much of a role a pediatrician plays in that. Sometimes you think that it's, you're just, to kind of tell the social worker about it. And really you're working as a team, you're working with social work, but also there's a lot that as a pediatrician you kind of shoulder on your own, and it's up to you to advocate for. I think that's probably one of the bigger things, but also how resilient kids are. I know a lot of people say that, and a lot of people say how strong kids are and how easily they bounce back. But in my 1 year of being in residency, I have seen so many stories, seen so many kids, and the things that they faced, but still have this just essence of just like joy, or this essence of still having hope, is something that has taught me a lot as I keep going on my own journey. And I think that was something that I was aware of, but I wasn't aware of just how real it was until I saw it for myself. with working with different kids.
Even thinking of ourselves as younger kids, like the things that we've probably gone through and things that we probably don't even think about to this day that has been instilled in us. I mean, I've watched my nieces and nephews bounce back from moments that I don't even think personally I could have bounced back from. Kids are truly resilient, and they learn and absorb so much. Yeah. And I think that a lot of times when people are like, children need to stay in a child's place, sometimes they don't get that option. And I think that when you allow yourself to remember that these are just little humans learning the world like we are, it allows you to be a little bit more understanding and sensitive to what they may also be going through. So what do you do when these kids first come into your room or come into your presence? Because, I mean, they're probably just as nervous as the parents are. So what do you do? Because I feel like there's probably some people in their medical journey right now who's in med school trying to figure out how to get to where you are in your residency. So what steps do you take to kind of like break that barrier?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and it sounds so simple, but a smile. That is the biggest thing. I think I'll say even when we're in clinic, there can be a lot going on. Like, you know, you can have a lot of different patients and back to back to back, and you may not have time in between to kind of just like breathe before you go and see the next. But I think slowing down, at least mentally, and reminding yourself that when you knock on that door and you walk in, don't bring whatever you just were seeing or whatever you were handling just a few seconds before, don't bring that into the room. Take a few seconds and mentally at least knock on that door and go in with this, you know, with a certain demeanor. And for me, it always starts with a smile. And I'm always, oh, hi, I'm Dr. Archer. Nice to meet you. Blah, blah. Is this so-and-so? And it starts off that way just so that it's, you know, it's scary. I remember what it was like to walk into my pediatrician's office. It was like the hallway of shame. Like you're just afraid of, am I going to get shots today? Am I going to, like, what's going to happen today? And I think it all starts with that, is just a smile and just being pleasant. And it's hard because we're also humans too. And, you know, you're going through things and just life. We're humans at the end of the day. But I think for the kids, at least, it's helpful to bring that joy so that it kind of dispels some fear. And if a kid is not getting shots that day, I will let them know from the very beginning, you're not getting any shots today. That way they're not sitting there the whole visit wondering if they're going to get a shot today, because I remember what that was like.
Exactly. Like you're going through that room and it's already so like traumatizing. You don't know what's going on. You're hearing beeping, sterilization everywhere. You're like overwhelmed. So I can imagine having that soothing aura come in and be like, no, everything's fine.
Yep.
Hi. Yep. I'm here for you. I think that's amazing. And on top of the fact that you're an amazing medical doctor and you're killing your residency from what I'm seeing, you've also founded a nonprofit. Like, girl, how do you have the time and the energy in the day and your month and your year to create a nonprofit that not only is affecting people here, but affecting people in your home country with Roots Strong? Like, what do you do, girl? How do you compartmentalize? How do you get all of this done?
It's hard, and I think I had to learn how to compartmentalize when I started med school, because I thought I could do it all together all at once and it was going to be great and easy. And I learned very quickly with med school that no, you have to take a beat sometimes. But I founded Roots Strong actually fresh out of high school. So it's now 11 years old this year.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I graduated 2015. I started it the summer just before starting college. And I think the big reason why I did was a lot of it, I always go back to my parents. I'll say my mom in particular, she really raised my sister and I to like, she raised us to really have a love for reading. When we were growing up, you know, we might go to the store, we might go and like any kid, like want to get a toy or buy this or buy that. You'll point at everything and ask if you can get it just to see what will stick. And of course, you know, as in typical mom fashion, you know, we'd be like, no, we're not doing that today. But a book, my mom would never turn us down for a book. My dad would never turn us down for a book. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that for my mom especially, she was raised in a very rural area, very removed, not very removed, but a good 45-minute drive from the capital of Jamaica, Kingston.
Oh, wow.
And so there weren't any libraries. There just wasn't access to books. And so what books she would get would be from what my grandmother would be able to bring back from here in Detroit, be able to bring back to her in Jamaica. So I think for my mom, growing up and then coming to America and, becoming an adult and trying to, get different jobs and things like that, she realized just how much she did not have growing up. And also realized the importance and the just how important reading is in anything. And so she always raised my sister and I to know that, math and science are great. That's important. But if you can't read and write, that is the foundation of everything. And so that was instilled in us at a very young age. And so as 2015 rolls around, and, I'm now visiting Jamaica every year with my parents, but I'm also seeing that some of the same things and stories I grew up hearing my mom talk about her not having in her community, I'm seeing it. And so I'm going back to Glengoff in Jamaica, and I'm seeing that a lot of the kids still don't have access to a library, don't have access to books. And the closest one is still 45 minutes away. And so seeing that and also seeing that reflected here in the city where a lot of kids don't feel excited about reading, and it's understandable. School doesn't always make it exciting. But also knowing that we've had a literacy crisis for a long time, that was kind of what kind of pushed me to want to start an organization that focused specifically on youth literacy. And so it started off as a few things. We started off, with hurricane relief drives and things like that. In 2017, that was one of our first projects. And then 2019, we built a library, 2 libraries and a computer lab in Glengoff. So we finally brought a library and computer lab to my mom's community. And that was a community-led project. So here in Detroit, we've done Little Free Libraries. We've done, getting books out to kids. So it's always, books are important to me even now, and I credit that all to my mom. But I want kids to also have that joy for reading too.
I love that. I think that's why I'm such a big reader and why I'm so passionate when I see a kid going to a little library. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys like reading. I love it. Because your mom is very similar to my mom. My mom was not down with buying me everything my heart desired. But when it came to a book, it was cool. Always. I would always have like 2 to 3 books in my hand at all times. And I'm still the same way to this day. And I think not only being able to just learn different things, because obviously there's different cultures, different experiences in books, but also to see that the world is vaster than what you think. I mean, especially growing up, you think that your community, your life is so insular, like this is it. And I think reading and getting to open a book up allows you to think bigger and dream bigger and see bigger. Do you think, and maybe you can't speak for your mother, but instead of asking you what's the most fulfilling thing, because I can imagine that bringing the library and computer lab was probably a fulfilling moment for you. But what do you think your mom feels like when she's watching her flesh and blood change something that she's grown up and didn't even realize could possibly even change, watching you make these changes and bring something that wasn't there to her community? Like, have you guys had that conversation? Like, do you know how that has affected her?
I've never thought of that, actually. I've never thought of it in that way. I really can't imagine what might be going through her mind. I think I want to believe that in some way she recognizes her own role in all of that, and knowing that, okay, they listened, they heard me. All those stories I would bore them with, I thought I was boring them with, they were listening. And she's been involved every step of the way. So I want to believe that she's proud of that, and that she feels that she's done I would hope that she knows that she's done a good job in instilling the right things. Because I wouldn't have that awareness and I wouldn't have that heart for it if I didn't see her model it first.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to see the differences or the similarities between knowing that my community is not just locally, it's also globally. knowing that I'm rooted, as much as I'm rooted here, I'm rooted there. And without that story, without that heritage, without that community, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
If she wasn't born and raised in that country community, I wouldn't be here. If she didn't have those stories, if she didn't have that upbringing, I don't think I would have the outlook on life that I do have. And she passed that down to me. So I think that I would hope that she's proud of herself, really, because it's all credit to her. I wouldn't have that awareness if it wasn't for her.
I love that you said that your community isn't local, it's globally.
Yeah.
And I feel like if so many more people had that mindset, the world would be in a very, very different spot than it is. Yeah. What do you see next for Root Strong? Is there any way that we can support? Like, is there a donation link? Like, what can the community do for you? Because you're already pouring into the community, and now it feels like the community needs to give back to you as well. So what's next? Like, how can we help you create, the next journey of Root Strong?
Yeah, so for Root Strong, I feel like what we're working on now is we're still continuing with the hurricane relief that I'm so grateful that you guys were so kind and just spotlighting. But we're still continuing with that, really. Hurricane Melissa hit the island last year in the fall, and the country's coming back. It's coming back, which is nice. But there's still a lot that needs to be done. And so one of the big things that we're planning to do is build another library. And so we're right now trying to find a community that needs it most, where it would be most beneficial. But we want to create a standalone library that is accessible to kids there, and filled with all kinds of books that not only reflect them, but also reflect the world. And like you mentioned, books truly do open your mind to the worlds around you. So making sure that they're stocked with all kinds of books. So the best way to kind of support Root Strong, one, we are always collecting books, always. I'm literally always the person, just if you have books in your closet, in your basement that you no longer want, or if you have kids who no longer read, books that they had as little ones, we're always open to accepting them, and being able to give them new life to new kids in different communities. So you can always donate books. You can always just reach out to us either through email, which is contact@rootstrong.org, or on our Instagram. And then in terms of monetary donations, our website is a good place to go, if that's something that people want to do, but rootstrong.org is the way to go for that.
I just love how you have created this beautiful life for yourself, but not only for yourself, but for the people around you. I think, like you said, your parents have raised you and your sister to be whole people, to have huge hearts, and it's amazing to watch the progress. Obviously, I'm a outside bystander, but watching what you've done and how you move through the world and how you empower people is truly amazing. I mean, we just had Duran here, and he spoke nothing but uplifting praise about you.
So kind.
So it's just beautiful to see when you truly step out on faith and truly move in the world with your love and passion, what that starts to do for the world. So on top of the fact that you're an amazing doctor, you've got this amazing nonprofit, now you're writing books. Like, what can't you do, Lyndsay? What the heck? So tell me, like, was it Root Strong that brought you to be like, okay, well, no, I think I can write a book now? Or like, what was that process before you sat down and wrote Fly Dr. Fly?
Yeah, so that came from, now that I'm like talking to you about all of this, I'm realizing Root Strong in a lot of ways is a tribute to my mom, and then Fly Dr. Fly is in a lot of ways a tribute to my dad. When I got to college, it was a culture shock in a lot of ways, because once I started pre-med classes, in order to get into medical school, it was a bit of a shock, and I was maybe one of maybe 5 Black students in a sea of 300 in a lecture hall.
Right.
And as I would go on from freshman year all the way to senior year, you kind of, sometimes you see that number go down, and it in a lot of ways was isolating. And so I think I remember kind of thinking, I must have been either a sophomore or junior in college, but I remember thinking, I really don't want kids to feel this way. I really would love if there was a book that would kind of show Black and brown kids that this is something that they can do and become and pursue. I had that in the home. And if I didn't, I don't know that I would be a doctor. Or maybe I would have realized that dream a little bit later on in life. But I thought it was really important for kids to see that early on, so that by the time they get to high school, maybe it's a thought in their mind that they want to be a doctor. And maybe they start pursuing that throughout college. So I was an African American Studies major in college and a pre-med student.
My goodness.
So combining my two passions, I think I remember kind of it was during spring break one year, and I just wrote down this story, pulled up like Google Docs or something and just like wrote down this story. And it was loosely based off of a story that my dad had told me, because my dad is a very anecdotal man. He loves to tell a good story. And he will tell you, in 1975, this happened. And I'm like, all right, I think I remember what happens in 1975. But he always would tell me the story of how he kind of got drawn to medicine as a kid in Jamaica. And it involved a bird. And the national bird of Jamaica just so happens to be called the doctor bird.
Wow.
And it's a hummingbird, which is my favorite. And so I kind of combined his story, but also brought in a bit of the cultural aspect of Jamaica with using the doctor bird, to kind of tell this story to hopefully inspire kids to dream big, most importantly, whether it's to become a doctor or anything else, but also to know that if this is something you want to do, it is possible. And that dream can start from anywhere, even if it's helping an injured bird or something, as it is in the story. So that's where that came from. I wrote the draft. That was around 2016. And then it wasn't until the pandemic, so 2020, that I actually sat down and said, let me actually put it together. And it became a book, and I self-published it that year. So yeah, it's 6 years into the world, which is crazy to me.
What can't you do? Like, I'm truly impressed just by how you move, and like the fact that you're just like, I don't want other people to feel the way that I feel, so let me do something about it. And I think that if more people were just like, let me do something about it, there would be just so much more like empowerment in the world, and just allowing people to have access to things is just so amazing. And seeing a lack of it and being like, yeah, I don't want this to continue. Just, I don't know. Shout out to your parents. Shout out to you. Like, I don't know what has been instilled in you, but I'm truly floored and impressed. So when you put this out, what has been the reception? Like, have you witnessed kids like buying your book and being like, oh my God, like, how does that feel? Like, I mean, it's in the Howard Family Bookstore, so it's like right here, accessible. And Jawan was explaining his story and how that built. So the fact that your book and now hearing your story, it just makes sense why, you know, the collaboration of a sorts is there. But how do you feel having like a tangible thing out in the world and seeing it like have its own life? Like, what are you thinking?
Even though it's been 6 years, every time I see a kid, like if a parent shares a picture with me, or it could be anything really. If I just see someone with the book, it just surprises me every time. Nothing ceases to surprise me nowadays. Like, I don't think it ever will stop. I will see kids. I've had the book now go to Ghana. I've had the book now go to so many different states. And I remember when I first put the book out, I would print out this like drawing of the United States, and I would color in each state that it would travel to. And that's how much it meant to me, just knowing that the book was going to these places I've never been to. And so it floors me every time. And I think Jawan's store, so the Howard Family Bookstore, was the first store that just so openly just said, yeah, let's put it on the shelves, and just being so open to local authors. And so seeing it even there, and knowing the story of the bookstore there, and seeing it even in its development, I'm just so proud of the bookstore, and of him, but also just amazed anytime I even see my book there, because I see people looking at it and they're like, okay, and they pick it up, and I'm like, oh, it really is something that people are interested in. I know a few months ago, I learned that the book is in Sean Paul's house, it being read to his kids. And that blew my mind. And his wife was talking about how she bought it at a store in Jamaica. And so it surprises me every single time, but it humbles me every single time. It does not, nothing is like, oh, I knew that. No. Never. I am always floored every single time.
That's so incredible. I know that you mentioned like your parents. I hope that they're proud of what they've done, but I hope you're proud of yourself. And I hope that you have taken time to really be like, wow, everything that like has been in my heart and I've moved forward with it has come to fruition, and things that you didn't even dream of have happened. Like, I truly hope that you have so much pride within yourself and like so much grace for yourself for things that may not have come to fruition in the way that you saw, like what you have done and who you are inspiring, the rooms that you have been in without like you actually being in them. I really hope that you have sat with that, because the legacy and the impact that you are creating is gonna be unmatched. I know it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And looking forward, what impact do you hope happens here or in Jamaica or just globally through not only your work, but work in medicine and literacy and advocacy and education? Like, what do you hope to see in the world?
Yeah. I want to see more empathy, but not just stopping there. I really want it to be more than just a feeling. I want it to be something that people act on, because I think there's a lot in the world right now that we forget our empathy sometimes. And I think the lack of it sometimes informs how we treat each other. And if that could be the basis of everything and how we kind of lead our lives, I think that would change so much. Just making sure that we just be kind. Just be kind. I have a pin on I used to wear it on my badge, but it says kindness matters, just to remind, it's such a simple and cliche thing to say, but it's so true. And I think that if we were to act on it more, I think that would change a lot. But I also kind of thinking of just in general, I hope more kids read more books.
Yes.
More people in general read more books. I always tell people that fiction is probably one of my favorite genres, if not my favorite genre, because of the fact that, yes, I think we lean towards nonfiction and the self-help and all these things to teach us about, how we can better ourselves. But I actually think fiction does that in ways that nonfiction can't, in that it allows you to step into the shoes of someone else whose story is not your own. And because of that, you're processing the experiences of that character.
Yep.
You're processing the interactions they're having with other characters. And it's not something that's your story, so you're able to remove yourself from it in a bit of a sense.
Yeah.
But you're able to explore those different emotions and those different ideas just by reading. And you can leave the book being completely different, at least in a little way, than you were starting it.
Truly.
And so going back to empathy, I think that more reading would help too, in just helping us to be more empathetic, but then making the conscious effort to act on it.
I love that. I wholeheartedly agree with what you say. When people mention that fiction isn't really reading, it floors me, because I'm like, what do you mean? Granted, I don't like this author, but growing up, Harry Potter was my world.
Yeah.
And I wasn't just there because of, the fantasy of it all. Watching what Harry has to overcome, and then seeing little pieces of myself in each character, seeing how he's moved through the world, how his empathy is with all of the things that he's gone through, watching incredible teachers teach him and realizing, oh my gosh, I have teachers that aren't just my teachers. Like, I have my mom and I have my uncles and I have this random person who talked to me at the grocery store. I was able to learn these very tough lessons without realizing I was learning the tough lessons. And especially as a kid, I don't want to say tricking kids, but that's just the best word that I can think of. But tricking them into learning without realizing that they're learning is probably one of the best things that my mom did. I mean, learning my multiplication tables, I learned it to hip hop music.
Oh, nice.
And to this day, I can spit off multiplication tables because she taught it to me in a way that it didn't feel like learning. And that's why I feel like with reading, I really hope that people just crack open a book, whether it's a comic book, whether it's a newspaper of some sort, or whatever mode of reading you need. It should be however you can take that message, because I mean, there's amazing authors who are writing glorious books with huge messages that you wouldn't even realize are happening. So I truly agree with what you're saying. And speaking of being empathetic, that's the reason why I created this platform and why I wanted to move into something bigger, because I felt as though coming to this city, I saw so much heart and so much grit and so much passion. And there were people that weren't getting acknowledged and recognized for what they do. I mean, we have amazing politicians and amazing leaders who are constantly on our televisions, on our airways daily. But there are people just like yourself who are moving in this world with beautiful intention that may not get the same recognition. And that's why I created this. So now that you are officially a Detroit culture shifter, who do you feel like is moving the culture forward, whether they're doing something tangible or something small that you feel as though deserves to be recognized today?
Yeah, I wanted to nominate Shanel Adams. She is a teacher. She is an amazing teacher at that. She is the founder of a nonprofit called Progressionista, which is a nonprofit that's focused also on literacy. But she's been doing work for such a long time, and it specifically is for young girls. So girls between the ages, I want to say between 8 and 12 maybe, but it's a book club, and it gets these girls, it's the most revolutionary book club that I think I've ever seen, in the sense that she introduces reading to girls in a way that is exciting by hosting these book club sessions that they read a book, and it might be on, a food truck owner, a fictional story about a food truck owner. And what she'll do is she'll actually find a woman or someone in the community who reflects that story, and the girls can actually meet them and talk to them. And she puts so much intention into every single session, into the books that she finds. She puts me onto books all the time, and I'm like, I would have never guessed. Would have never known about that book. But she, I think her being a teacher pours into just how she cares for the kids in our community, in a way that I've always believed it deserves more attention. And she's just so humble about everything she's done. She's done it for years and years. I want to say probably more than 12 years at this point. But she's phenomenal. She's a phenomenal person. She's from the city, born and raised, and she's very proud of that. But she's also a friend, and I'm really proud of her, and I think she deserves her flowers for sure.
Well, Shanel, I'll be talking to you soon, girl. But thank you so much for being here. Let everyone know where to find you, where to find Root Strong, or any other platforms that you want to highlight.
Yes. So you can find me. I'm most active on Instagram. Instagram and TikTok. It's the same username, Lyndsay, LYNDSAY.Archer. And then Root Strong. Root Strong is ROOTSSTRONG, and that's on Instagram. But those are kind of the platforms that I'm on. And from there, you can find all the other things I'm interested in, my vinyl page, all those other stuff.
Because I didn't even highlight the vinyl page, but baby, that's how I found you. So I know that we have a love similar to that. Yes. But I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done, everything that you will continue to do. I hope that you know that you are always welcome to come back here anytime, any day, any hour. I think that you are an incredible woman. Shout out to your family for cultivating a true icon in her own right. And I'm truly impressed, and I cannot wait to see what else you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you even just having me here, and just all these intentional questions. I appreciate it, having the time.